And you know, I'm passionate about that, being a single woman myself. The journey for me has been an interesting one because I started out in the place where I had this long list of requirements for my future husband. He must be like this, he must be like that, okay? And I've since narrowed it down to about 10 things. So I'm doing reasonably well. And I think the ladies that are laughing in the building are the ones that are married because they'll be like, girl, just you wait. But I love that note. What makes a good relationship? Can you give us maybe like a few points, what you have learned from your experience? What makes a good relationship? Because I know you're happily married now, and the smile on your face just shows it.
Yes.
Amazing.
Yes, I won't talk about, you know, the bad relationship. Let's talk about a good relationship because I'm happily married. And from what I have had in the good relationship with my husband, on our first date, I told him what I was expecting. So those expectations that you have, what you're expecting, that's you. That's the real you. So don't narrow it down. That's the real you. Yes. So I knew who I was because I had gone on the journey. God had taken me through this journey and I knew who I was. So from the top of my head, I told him that, you know, he can never put a hand on me because I've been through it, and I don't think he would even dare because I've trained in Taekwondo. So he knew, so he wouldn't, but I told him that you can never put a hand on me. I said, if you feel that you're no longer interested in me, that you just don't feel good, I said, I would love you to tell me. And if I can't do anything about it, leave me, but don't abuse me psychologically, emotionally. Don't play around with me. Just tell me, and if you don't want, you don't want. I can't force you. I said, I'm a born-again Christian. God comes before you. As yeah, he knows. If I tell him, babe, I love you, he's like, I know I'm second. He knows it. So I told him, I love God more than I do you. I said, I'm a born-again Christian, you know, I pay my tithes. I told him everything. That's just how real I am. I told him everything. I said, I want to be able to do what I do with my calling, you know, being a worship leader. I want to be able to be free to do those things. If you don't like it now, if you don't like everything I've told you about me, it's okay, just walk away. And he told me, I told him I wanted to have children. I told him, don't ask me for my hand in marriage before I finish my university. I said, because I'm not going to say yes. I want to finish my graduate, what I came originally to Australia for. So I told him everything that I was expecting and what I wanted. And he told me his expectations, and they were good. And we're like, good. So even in the course of the relationship, people were asking me, you're getting older, why are you not getting married? All the girls in your age, you know, they've got kids. And I was like, who are you? The man that I'm dating, he knows I don't want to get married. I'm studying. And I can tell you, every weekend he would come after his golf, come on a Saturday, he would make the meals for me for the whole week. That's how because he knew what I wanted to achieve in life.
Yeah.
But if you're that girl is just going to say, let's go with the flow, you will go with the flow. Yes, in the beginning, you need to make sure, you need to make sure you know what you want and you're consistent. I am a born-again Christian. My husband is not. He has attended church the first time he was in church, because I was in depression writing this book, some things had gone wrong, and he realized there's nothing he can do. He said, I'm sick and tired of this wife, because I don't know this wife. We are going to church. He took me to church on a Friday night. So, you know, he's seen the consistency. He sees who I am. and He lets me be who I am. So if anything I can say, whatever it's your expectations, that's the real you, that's what you want. Write them down and stick to it. And don't change for nobody. Because when you change, people start changing because they realize they can play with you, they realize you're not consistent in what you do. So good marriage is, girls, I've been abused, it's not even a joke. Terrible. But I can assure you, to all the ones who are single in here, and even those who are divorced, who are separated, good relationships are out there and good men are out there. I pinch myself every day because I even have the card door. I always say this because even me, we've been dating, it's coming up, we were together about 10 years, and I pinch myself every time he opens the card door for me. Like, am I really worthy? But for me, He knows I am worthy. So know what you want and stick to it. Don't change.
That's amazing. And that's amazing. Yep, that's right. I do think it's very important. So you mentioned a few things there, and one of the things that really stuck out for me was you have to have a value system. You have to have a value system of your own, because you cannot go with the flow. Like, you will end up down the river, you know? And you'll be lucky if you're alive. And that's what we were talking about earlier, that if you do not know who you are, someone else is going to tell you. Yes. And you will be very lucky if you get somebody who knows, who really knows what you deserve. And it's very rare to find that, because people will put all sorts of different labels and things on you because of what they perceive you to be. But if you're not able to identify, I love that, the exercise that Gladys has given us, go and find out who you are. So that when somebody comes along, you are able to tell them. You're able to, and that's what makes good relationships. And I think not even just with a significant other, but also between us as girls. Sometimes there's peer pressure, isn't there? You talked about how people will be pressuring you and saying, before you got married and you wanted to finish your degree, that there were people that were coming up and saying, you're past the marrying age, and what's going on with you? And do you know what? There was once a guy who said something to me. So he would have seen me somewhere, and I was going through that stage, honestly, in my life, where I had a few people who had said to me, the problem with you, Inonge, is that you're just too fussy. And that might be true. Okay, it is true. And so I began to succumb to that, I suppose, in my mind, that I would never really open up myself. Like, if a guy came along, I'd be like, talk to the hand. But somehow, I don't know how, don't ask me how, somehow he got my number. I don't know where he got it from. Okay, I gave it to him. And I've got many mothers in the room, so please, this story ends well. Well, reasonably well, anyway. So anyway, he would have called me, and this story really, I didn't continue communicating with him, but he asked me this question, and he said, he asked me how old I was, and I don't have a problem. I'm 35, and yes, I know, 35 and fabulous. And he asked me how old I was, and I told him I wasn't 35 at that time, though. I think I was 20, I was in my 20s. And he said, so, what's wrong with you? Because how come you're not married now? And so, okay, someone told me off for the answer that I gave him. I said that, go and ask God, and when he tells you, come and tell me. But this is what happens in society, is that, we are expected to marry by a certain age, we're expected to have this by a certain age, and time is changing. Times are changing. I was just talking with a friend just last night, because we were talking about ministries, and Destiny Sisterhood is not really, it's not affiliated to an age per se, because it's dealing with a need. It's dealing with the idea of self-worth and self-value. And so if I say that it's from 15 to whatever age, it's dealing with a need. And so it's very hard to put an age on it, because nowadays, like young adults, that's what we were talking about. Young adult ministries are sometimes like 18 to 35 or thereabouts. And I've been kicked out of young adults ministry so many times because I'm past the age. And then they just shifted a bit. Come back in. But because we're doing different things at different times now. So society has put us into a box where we need to be who we are. Have a value system. Well, thank you for sharing that. That's amazing. Amazing. So So I really wanted to find out from you, what advice would you give to somebody who is struggling with self-worth? Because maybe I can ask you the question, when you were in that relationship, would you say that you had an understanding of what your value was?
None at all, to be honest. When I look back, everything was based on experience, and not even experience in a relationship, but based on what I saw growing up. That was what it was. So there was not that awareness, not that education. You know, what is a good relationship? You as a person, you've got value. And that's what breaks my heart. I think that's one of the main reasons why I wrote this book, because I realized there are so many women, elder women, you know, I've seen so many women married, women who have been in these relationships. They are just there, they are like dead women walking. They have no purpose whatsoever. There is nothing, they are just living, and they're saying, I'm doing it for the kids. And then the funny thing is that so many women saying, I'm doing it for the kids. And I put this in the book. I quoted a police officer, a New South Wales police officer, who he's now retired, but he was dealing with domestic violence and abuse. He said a child who was grown in a domestic violence and abusive family, the boy, if it's a boy, his first girlfriend, he would definitely abuse her, because that's all he knows and he thinks it's right. He might change, but the first girlfriend he will abuse. If it's a girl who grows up in an abusive home, the first boyfriend will abuse her, and she will stay because that's all she knows. It might change, but the first one will do exactly what she learned, and she will not even try to leave because it's normal. And that's children. As a child, the first people whom we trust is your mom and your dad. And if things are not right, you suck all that, whatever is not right. You might change, but the first things, you will do that. So when I quoted this, it made sense when I read this, because there was a particular time in my childhood, I saw domestic violence and abuse. And 200%, the reason why I allowed this man to do this is because I thought it was normal. Men beat women, and it's normal. And I did not know that actually it's a crime to abuse a woman, to abuse a man, because there are some women who are abusing men. I will say this. I have had so many men speak to me, and they're like, men are opening, it humbles me. They are being abused by women. So it's not just men abusing women, you know, it's the other way around. So my encouragement is that for someone who has been or who has seen abuse growing up, like me, you will tell yourself, I will never be abused. I told myself that I've seen it, but I would never allow any man to touch me. Look what happened. And I almost lost my life. So if you have seen abuse, or if you grew up in a home, you know, be wherever environment, seek help. Talk to someone. Let it be, you know, like what you were talking about, how you know yourself. You might think you're strong, but before you know it, you realize, no, because these are things that are beyond you. You actually need help. You need to talk to someone. You need someone to counsel you, be it church, be it mentors. Talk to someone that I grew up seeing this. I don't want to go through it. So that even if you go through it, that person will always push you back in the right direction. But if you think you do it on your own, these are psychological and things that are beyond our human understanding. So that's the first advice I would give to any person who has seen it, so that you don't go through the same thing. But with self-esteem issues, I remember, it's on the book, but I'm trying to make it, you know, to summarize it. In this relationship, I got pregnant because I was staying with a man. I got pregnant 3 times, and 2 times I terminated the pregnancy. And when I had left the relationship, I'm now a born-again Christian. I know God has forgiven me because I've asked for forgiveness, as the Bible says, forgive, you know, as all was confident God has forgiven me, you know, so I can now do my life. But there are some people who speak without anointing or grace. They will say things, I'm being real here. You will go somewhere and someone will talk about something. It's not that you haven't repented or anything, but because there is no grace, there is no love in the speaking, you will leave that place condemned and you start asking yourself, am I really forgiven? Did God really forgive me? And I went through that. I heard someone speaking about abortion, and I'm telling you, I lost it. I lost that Tinashe that had come back. I was like, I did a terrible thing. I don't think what I want, God, I am not getting the answers because God hasn't forgiven me and all that. I went through, you know, a few days of condemning myself, and it was hard because I had gone like up there, and just one speaker, a person, said something, and I lost everything that I had. I started questioning myself, did really God forgive me? Am I really forgiven? Am I really free? And all that. And it took a dream or a vision. God had to come to me because I was questioning everything. Am I really forgiven? And I had this dream, a vision. In my old house, I had mirrors as the wardrobe. So I had this dream that Jesus, he came in my room, and the whole ceiling was open, and he asked me to wake up. And just me, I love sleeping without anything on. That's just me. And he came, so this is me. So he came and he told me to wake up. And because for me, I know that God is holy, I was like, you know, I'm naked. So I was trying to do this because he woke me up and told me to look at those mirrors. So I was like this. You know, I was covering every part that I think. And he said, Tinashe, look at yourself in the mirror. And I was like, but you're holy. He said, just the way you are. This is me, without contouring, without weave, without pajamas, as he created me. He said, look in the mirror. I had to straighten up, look in the mirror, and I looked at Tinashe in the mirror. And I was not even good at scriptures. I was still a young Christian. But the first scripture that came was the one in Isaiah, the one that says, come and let us reason together. Though your sins are red as scarlet, they shall be as white as snow. Snow just started pouring from my ceiling. And this is at night. The boldness you see in me, everyone says she's brave, she's courageous. It comes from that day. No person, not even my husband, not even my own mom, dad, family can tell me of everything that I've done wrong and condemn me, and I feel condemned. Nobody on this earth can condemn me for what I've gone through, because I am washed, I am completely free, and I walk in confidence.
I love it. That's amazing. That's amazing. And you know, it's difficult. It's difficult to talk about these things because, like I mentioned, I'm from the same school where there are certain things that you think, oh, I'm not sure whether we can talk about that. I'm not sure whether, but it's something that we need to actually verse ourselves in and school ourselves in. It may not be because we have gone through things, but we have to stand there and pick up those that have. You know, I come from a ministry and a schooling that one of our pillars is that nothing and nobody is beyond restoration. And often when I was having a chat with the young lady even just today, where, you know, the aspect of going back sometimes to church is where we feel the most judged because of things that we have gone through. And it's not because people are bad. It's not because the people in our churches, that they're bad, but maybe we don't know how to actually broach these subjects. But the unfortunate thing is that there are real things happening in our world today. Real mistakes that people make. And if we are not able to address these things with grace and with love, And to be able to say, I mean, I love what you said about that, naked and not ashamed. That's in the Bible, y'all. That's how Adam and Eve were created, to know they were not covering themselves up. And when we know about how when we go through things, the first instinct that we have is, well, I'm going to cover this up. So that I'm palatable. That's exactly what Adam did. Because he realized he had made a mistake. But God was looking for him. And I just love that vision because, you know, like you shared, that set me free. Because I know that whatever I might go through, when God looks at me, I don't need to cover myself up. Because God knows the very inside of you. And He knows your potential, good and bad. He knows what you're capable of doing, good and bad. So it's important for us, I wanted us to broach these subjects because I feel that it's the reason why we're dying. And not just dying physically, because there are people who are taking their lives because of these things, and whose lives have been taken. But we are dying because we're not able to actually open up our mouths and say, this is what I've been through. Now, I'm not saying God has given you grace to be able to share it in this way. I'm not saying that in order for you to be free, you need to write a book. I'm not saying that you need to tell it all. It's very important for you to know who to talk to. It's important to know when to talk, but talk about it. Finding the ability to be able to talk about things that you, especially if you are struggling, especially if you feel that you are trapped. Because I wanted us to do today, because I was tired of being trapped. I was tired of being trapped in, you know, whatever had happened to me or different mistakes that I might have made, and feeling like I couldn't move forward, whether it was in ministry or move forward in my calling or move forward in my career because I thought I wasn't good enough. And I was tired of seeing that on other people. You know how it is when you talk to someone and you say, oh wow, you look really awesome, or you did well, and they'll be like, oh, you know. And I get so mad because I just think you are awesome. Like, how can you not see that? But what's really amazing is that I do the same. I do the same. So I love that vision, that dream that God gave you, where you're able to just be yourself, and God says, just as you are enough. That's fantastic.